the founder and creator of Aroma Baby Products, Catherine Savazio. And how did it actually start off? Obviously, it is very important to have products without parabens and carcinogenic chemicals. When did you come to realise this?
I think about 15 or 20 years ago I was working in the skincare industry and we were developing products at that time, and we learned that some of the ingredients that were used in some of the skincare products were potentially linked to skin irritations and much worse. So we looked at taking out sulfates, parabens, propylene glycol, added colour, artificial fragrance, and developing a new range for babies. So that's when it all started. Okay, look, a lot of the research that I was accessing at that time showed a marked increase, particularly in infant and childhood eczema. And I suppose that was my biggest concern, that at that time 1 in 4 babies or children were developing eczema. It's now gone up to 1 in 3 babies that develop eczema at some time. So that was my main driver, I guess, to develop something that was without these potentially irritating ingredients and hopefully offer parents a choice in the type of product that they used.
But you know what's really amazing, Catherine, is that who knew that if we're putting something that is on the surface, not necessarily internally, who knew that it would actually be harmful to us if it had, you know, a chemical in there? And if you think about it, guys, the skin is actually a carrier, not a barrier. So just grasp that concept for a moment, because the pores of the skin, especially when you've had a nice warm bath, are open and they're actually drawing in these toxic chemicals, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right, and I think that's one of the things that over the last 4 or 5, 6 years, people have started to understand a little bit more. That if you look at things like hormone replacement therapy, where they're via a transfer of a patch of the chemical through the bloodstream into the body, and also with, for example, nicotine patches, a lot of people can relate to that. You might think, oh my goodness, that's crazy, there's no way something I put on my skin can actually get into my system. But that's not true, and I suppose if you think of those 2 examples, it actually does get in, and there's residues of whatever you're using that do enter your bloodstream, and they are metabolised by the body, and they do affect how healthy you are.
And that's exactly right, and more we are learning that health happens by choice, not by chance. So now we're realising that the choices we make with the personal hygiene products that we use can actually have an impact on our health, whether they present themselves in a symptom like an eczema or an irritation on the skin or not. They're actually making an impact to our health in the long term. Did you know that in a soap there is something called SLS? Can you explain more about SLS, Catherine?
Sure. SLS, or it's also known as sodium lauryl sulfate or sodium laureth sulfate. There's lots of different types of sulfates. Sulfate is actually a foaming agent, and you find it in body and shower gels, you find it in shampoos, you find it in hand washes, but all of our products are sulfate free. If something claims to be soap free, and it still foams or it still lathers up, still, like for example a gentle natural baby bath gel, but it has lots of bubbles, then it's got something in there that is acting as a surfactant or a detergent. And any kind of detergent can dry the skin by stripping the natural oils. So not only is sulfate free important, but I suppose low lathering and mild detergents, because it's okay to use them in moderation and perhaps if they're naturally derived. But if you've got sensitive skin or if you want to avoid chemicals, you really need to be aware of A, the sulfates, and B, what kind of detergent is in the product that you're using.